All right, this is a review for the quiz. It's the first quiz in the unit called Analyzing Polynomial Functions. For numbers 1 through 4, find the zeros of each function and state the multiplicity of each zero. Okay, so number 1, let's set this equal to 0. Now what we're going to do is we're going to factor. Okay, what multiplies to negative 21 and adds to negative 4? Pause the video if you need to. So it's going to be negative 7 and positive 3. Negative 7 times 3 is negative 21, and negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. And let's solve each of these. X minus 7 equals 0, and then x plus 3 equals 0. So it gives us x equals 7, and x equals negative 3. Now remember, we can have a maximum of 2 distinct answers. In other words, we could have a maximum of 2 different answers, and we do. So for the zeros, we have negative 3 and we have 7. And you have to state the multiplicity of each. So negative 3 with the multiplicity of 1 because it occurs once. And then 7 with the multiplicity of 1 because it occurs once also. Number 2, let's set this equal to 0. Let's take out the GCF of x squared. So it leaves me with x squared plus 3x minus 40 in parentheses. And then let's factor the trinomial in the parentheses. What two numbers multiply to negative 40 and add to 3? It's going to be x plus 8 times x minus 5. Let me write this x squared as x times x. That way you don't forget anything. 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. 8 plus negative 5 is 3. Now let's set each factor equal to 0. X equals 0, that one's done. X equals 0, that one's done. X plus 8 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. That's going to give you x equals negative 8, and then it's going to give you x equals 5. So now for my zeros, or my answers, or my roots, or my solutions. We have negative 8, we have 0, and we have 5. Again, I usually tend to put them in order from smallest to biggest. Negative 8 has a multiplicity of 1 because it only occurs once. Zero has a multiplicity of 2 because it's occurring twice. And then you have 5 with the multiplicity of 1 because it only occurs once. Now remember, the degree in the original problem is 4. That means you can have a maximum of 4 distinct answers, a maximum of 4 different answers. We don't have 4 different answers because 0 has a multiplicity of more than 1. But all the multiplicities add up to the degree of 4. Number 3 looks like a factoring by grouping problem all day long. So let's replace f of x with 0. And then let's try factoring by grouping. Usually 4 terms indicates we're going to do factoring by grouping. The first group has a GCF of x squared. going to leave me with x minus 5 in parentheses, because x squared times x is x cubed, and x squared times negative 5 is negative 5x squared. The second group has a GCF of 6, which will leave me with x minus 5 in parentheses, because 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. Now the parentheses match, which should be expected. That gets factored out to the beginning. Everything left over, in this case x squared plus 6, comes in the second set of parentheses. Now let's solve. X minus 5 equals 0. That's easy. And then x squared plus 6 equals 0. This first one is going to give you x equals 5. When you have x squared plus 6 equals 0, think back to unit 3. Let's get x squared alone by subtracting 6 on each side. And then let's take the square root of each side. So x equals positive and negative square root of negative 6, which will be positive and negative I square root of 6 when you take out the I. Square root of negative 1 is I. So here's how I will write my answer. I'll say the zeros are, so zeros. We have 5. We have positive I square root of 6. And then we have negative I square root of 6. Each one with the multiplicity of 1. Multiplicity of 1, multiplicity of 1, multiplicity of 1. Okay. This next problem, let's first set it equal to 0. This is going to be the difference of 2 cubes. Okay? This is going to be the difference of 2 cubes. Because x cubed is x times x times x. And 125 is 5 times 5 times 5. So here's how you factor the difference of 2 cubes. A cubed minus b cubed equals a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. Okay? So that's how we're going to factor that. Okay. That was from Unit 7, Lesson 1. Unit 7, Lesson 1. It's been a while. Okay. So it'll be x minus 5 times x squared plus 5x plus 5 squared, which is 25. When we solve each one, we set each one equals 0. You cannot factor this because you cannot find two numbers that multiply 25 and add to 5. So let's solve each one separately. X minus 5 equals 0. X equals 5, that's easy. But you're going to have to use the quadratic formula on this next one, I think. Probably be the best way to do it. So in case you forgot, I'll just jot down the quadratic formula right here. You can pause the video if you want to copy it down. Opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We've done that a lot this year. So if you need to pause the video to copy that down, go ahead. X equals opposite of b, meaning negative 5. plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 25. All over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. Okay. So negative 5. Two in the denominator. Under the square root is going to be 25 minus 100, which is going to be negative 75. So again, that negative 75 came from doing 5 squared is 25 minus 100. 25 minus 100 is negative 75. And now let's simplify the square root of negative 75. Square root of 25. I'm just going to combine steps here because I'm running out of room. Square root of 25, which is 5. Square root of negative 1, which is I. And then square root of 3. So let me write my final answer like this. We have 3 zeros. We have 5. We have negative 5 plus 5i square root of 3 divided by 2. And then we have negative 5 minus 5i square root of 3 divided by 2. Each of those has a multiplicity of 1. With a multiplicity of 1, with a multiplicity of 1, and then with the multiplicity of 1. Okay. Next page. Number 5 and 6 should be the fast ones. Write in factored form. Okay. So if there's a 0 at negative 5, that means x plus 5 is a factor, because when you do x plus 5 equals 0, you get negative 5. If there's a 0 at negative 3, then it means x plus 3 is a factor, because when you do x plus 3 equals 0, you get negative 3. And if there's a 0 at 6, then it means x minus 6 is a factor, because when you do x minus 6 equals 0, you do get x equals 6. For this next one, same thing, but I'll do this one first. If there's a 0 at 0, that means you're going to have a factor of x, because you're going to do x equals 0. Let's do the 6 next. That means x minus 6 is a factor. And then we have a 0 at negative 4 and another 0 at negative 4. The question is, do you have to put that twice? And the answer is yes. So I'm going to do x plus 4, and I'll put squared. Number 7 and 8, same thing, but now you have to write it in standard form. Okay? So first you're going to write them in factored form, just like we did in number 5 and number 6. And then you're going to convert them to standard form. Okay. If there's a 0 at 0, I'm going to do f of x equals x times x plus 9 times x minus 2. And now you're just going to distribute like crazy. So let's distribute the x to the x plus 9 to get x squared plus 9x. What's the only thing better than distributing once? Distributing twice. So now we have to distribute again. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 2 at the end will be negative 2x squared. plus 9x times x, so plus 9x squared. And then minus 18x, because 9x times negative 2 is negative 18x. Combine like terms, make sure that it goes in descending order by degree. So it'll be x cubed plus 7x squared minus 18x. One more. Let's write it in factored form first, then we'll convert it to standard form. So f of x equals x plus 3 times x minus 1 times x minus 8. First, I'll do the x plus 3 times the x minus 1. Let's distribute that first. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 be minus 1x. 3 times x will be plus 3x. And 3 times negative 1 will be negative 3. Now, I would combine like terms now. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a 4 terms times 2 terms. Let's combine like terms, so we only have to do 3 terms times 2 terms. So let's make this plus 2x. Just to save us a little bit of time. And now let's distribute, okay? X squared times x will be x cubed. X squared times negative 8 will be minus 8x squared. Now let's distribute the 2x. 2x times x will be plus 2x squared. 2x times negative 8 will be minus 16x. And now let's distribute the negative 3. So negative 3 times x, negative 3x. And you have negative 3 times negative 8 is positive 24. Now just combine like terms and make sure it goes in descending order by the degree, biggest to smallest for the degree. So x cubed minus 6x squared. You combine the like terms. Then minus 19x and then plus 24. Okay. And that is the end of the first quiz review in this unit. The unit is analyzing polynomial functions. And this is the review for the quiz on lesson 1 and lesson 2. I hope that was helpful.